I grew up here, so this wasn't here when I was here. A lot of these things were here. Which just says a lot about my age. And as he said, Pat and I used to do a lot of writing together. It was sort of like this room. We'd sit in her kitchen, which her whole house would have fit in here, and we'd write, and the kids were in the bedroom sleeping, and her husband's jazz band was in the living room practicing. So we used to write some weird stuff. We always claimed we were the first beatniks in Lincoln. I'm going to start with a poem by Theodore Rothke. I like this poem. It's short, it's sweet, and it says a lot. Child on top of a greenhouse. I can see my brothers doing this. The wind billowing out the seat of my breeches, my feet crackling splinters of glass and dried putty, the half-grown chrysanthemums staring up like accusers, up through the streaked glass, flashing with sunlight, a few white clouds all rushing eastward, a line of elms plunging and tossing like horses, and everyone pointing up and shouting. I always think of my brothers when I read that. And they know why. I thought since this is Unite Place and I have a bunch of Unite poems, I'd read a couple of them tonight. This one goes way back. I mean, I just wrote it recently, but it was 1944 when Dottie came to town. She shocked the church ladies with her see-through blouses. She shocked the businessmen with her well-fitting blue jeans. She shocked our mothers with her 4-inch heels, worn even when she invited the neighborhood children to help give her sheepdog a bath. But she taught us it was fun to get soaked once in a while, and that what we wore, even a 2 or 3 times hand-me-down, could be fashionable in her eyes. That to be a bit different was okay. Most of all, Dottie taught a timid little duck-toed girl to walk a chalk line almost as gracefully as the New York model she was. She taught us all to be confident in ourselves and to value what we had, to make the most of every opportunity. She returned to New York after the war, leaving behind a crew of dog washers who knew they could do anything, and that it was even better if they could shock a few people out of their suits and ties along the way. And at first it did cause a little commotion when she'd come down to the bank. And this one, I'm blaming on my brother. I tried to write this poem for a lot of years, and it never worked. And the other day we were talking, and he said something, and it just clicked. So this is for you, Bob. My brother tells me he heard those footsteps that long ago night. The heavy tread upon the stairs, coming not to kiss us goodnight, but to say hello. This man we knew only from his photographs. Later, we heard the quiet voices and soft laughs. This man we knew as a picture on the shelf, a faint memory from a train ride to Texas. One last goodbye before that sea separated us. All this time, I thought it a dream, that thud of army boots on the stair, and him maybe wishing, but not really, for mud to soften the noise, not wanting, but perhaps secretly hoping to wake the 2 sleeping children, which he did. Time enough the next day for the cake and neighbors and laughter and tears in a celebration echoed across the land. He's been gone this time over 30 years, and no one but my brother and I are left to remember his weary tread the night he finally came home to plant kisses on our foreheads. And something a little lighter. This is just a little memory of Unite Place. Sort of a special place for us, at least. We were not allowed inside the magic garden, but from my bedroom window, I could look down on the fish pond at night, drawn there by the song of the frogs and the hope of catching the fairies who were reported to dance on the floating lily pads, nights when the moon was full. Everyone on the block had a story to tell of the strange goings-on in the old lady's garden, and I had the only ringside seat, but never a story to tell, except for that eerie spell that always caused my eyes to droop and my head to come to a rest on the windowsill, just at the peak of the frog's serenade. Just before the fairies came dancing out of their houses under the rose bushes beside the pond where the golden fish slept, where the full moon's twin shimmered on the wind-stirred water, and the lily pads waited. And I swear, one night I saw the fairies dancing. Or was it all just a dream? And this one, Rex, you'll have to wave when I go too long. I tried to time it, but this is called Lost, and I wrote it because it's reunion time. Everybody's either going to their high school reunion or they've planning it for fall or something, and you get those emails, where's so-and-so? So it prompted this. Lost. Some say one of the flyboys from the airbase west of town took her with him when he left. But maybe he left her without her. And she, with her slightly bulging belly, was sent off to far relatives. The whole family moved shortly after. Maybe she went wherever they did. She'd been one of the popular girls, pep clubs, school plays, but she didn't walk across the stage at graduation. And even now, some 50 years later, not even the internet can find any trace of her after the spring prom. When those pictures came back, she was still there, smiling. His face turned to pin the corsage, the same corsage they found in a corner of the gym turned dance hall when the janitors cleaned the next day. Every 10 years, her name is included on the list of lost classmates, but all inquiries come back, address unknown. And Rex was saying that you get several people together and give them the same topic and no two poems come out alike. Well, Devin Roy and I did that one time. And I think Roy gave us the hint to write about the wallflowers at prom or something like that. So this is my version. They all were very different. The Wallflowers Ball. Oh, but at least they showed up, those wallflowers. I hosted a pity party for one, not even a bare wall to stand against. In a house so close to the gym, the music came right through the walls. As I swayed to its throbbing beat, the boy of my dreams in my empty arms, The net layers of my formal hung limp in my closet as the last dance played and couples jitterbugged down the street. Even the wallflowers gently swayed, their gowns blending together in a riot of color, chirping and comparing notes on who almost asked them to dance. I locked myself in my room, afraid someone would look up and see me alone on the front step, dancing with my 2 left feet. And this is in a totally different vein. You never know what I'm going to write or read. Unpacking grandmother's cranberry bowl. Still unpacking crates of glassware. In this house only a few days. It is night, late, and the kids sleep. The sink full of soapy water, a chore saved till last to soothe hands that spent weeks carefully wrapping and unwrapping fragile heirlooms. Grandmother's cranberry red bowl stabs the air with daggers of fire as it's lowered into the water. Yesterday, Fred's semi pulled out, leaving the supper dishes to fill my long nights. Listening to the corn rattling in the field outside, took my gaze out the back window, beyond the field to the nearest house, under the blood-red harvest moon, making its way across the sky. Soft music on the radio, burnt sienna squirrels banished from their nighttime acorn races above my half-empty bed. A quiet, peaceful country life interrupted by pulsing red flames at the window on the far side of the cornfield, where in my mind serial killers lay in wait. While the real danger is half a mile to the east. No name or number, just directions to lead the firemen. And prayers that the shadows I'd seen other nights moving back and forth had gone late to the soup supper, chicken stew, ham and bean, chili. That the fire trucks would arrive first, shadows close behind to prevent any worry about victims. And that is just how it happened as I watched the red lights approach, first flashing ones, then smaller ones. At the post office the next day, I learned a lava lamp too close to white shears, where the shadows had danced to and fro earlier, were the main casualties. Those and nearby walls and window frames, which were now dark charcoal gray, the color of my dishwater abandoned in the excitement that covered my grandmother's bowl. The one she filled with cold water sat on her cherry wood table between her and her customers, come to see what their fortune told when a drop of blood from their pricked fingers sent ripples in motion, then stilled to show what lay ahead. I have her table and her bowl, but have not attempted to see the future. Maybe I should have. And I never know where I'm going to get a poem. Last month when we were here, a couple of lines came to me and I jotted them down and lost them for a couple of weeks and then found them again and played around with them. So this is a very rough poem, but I'm still working on it, but I thought I'd share it. Life Maps. A square of red silk folded into a triangle circles her neck, draping softly across her shoulders. Sunlight picks out the golden threads, wandering through it, drawing me along its path to the blondness of hair falling as a curtain across her delicate features. This scarf has taken her through dark days with its splash of color. a foil for her black outfit as she sits in the cafe window, her pen moving furiously across the notebook that substitutes for a platter of curly fries with cheese. And she and the gold threads record the roads she has traveled. At the next table is a map drawn with blue lines tracing the curved calves of a bare-legged tourist who would do better to drape a scarf of any color, a napkin, a tea towel over her milk-white legs to hide her map of the roads she has been down before arriving here at the table next to the woman wearing the red scarf with golden threads wandering across its terrain. And I will end with this one, because you're probably bored of this by now. So
No.
comes from a quote by G.K. Chesterton, who is the man who wrote the Father Brown mysteries, if you're familiar with them. And I used the quote for my title. Poets have been mysteriously silent on the subject of cheese, says G.K. Chesterton. And yet, most of us live on a diet of bread and cheese, Munster and provolone, goat cheese and cottage cheese, slabs of cheddar, rounds of Edam. On days when the chick is in the mail, we glorify the cheese with ground beef. Days when the mail doesn't come at all, a bit of macaroni will stretch it enough to invite a fellow poet to share our largesse. And having licked the bowl clean of the last remnants of cheese, we will take up our pens to write glorious odes to Grecian urns, to coy mistresses, to fallen heroes, never mentioning the cheese, the very sustenance of our lives. Later, gathered in little cafes, we eat salads with feta cheese, wash them down with cheap ale. A tourist or two may happen by to ask if we are famous. Of course we lie. They ask if we'd mind smiling for the cameras around their necks. Maybe we will say, string cheese! Thank you so much.